So good afternoon and a very big thank you for being here. As you can see, I've dressed down for the occasion. I'm truly blown away by the number of you here today. We have an incredible 170 registrants for this year. As you can see, we've also had a space upgrade, so now we have no limits on how many people we can have join us. I'd like to start by saying a massive thank you to our WIAT founding partners, Cell Therapy Catapult and OrganaBio, and WIAT partners, Emerson and Forge Biologics, for their continued support and belief, without which today and WIAT quite literally wouldn't be possible. After a morning focused on the intricacies and opportunities of investment within our investment summit, it's fitting that we now turn our attention to a conversation that holds transformative potential: investing in women, specifically female founders. Investment isn't just about capital allocation. It's about belief, trust, and foresight. It's about identifying potential and fueling innovation. And yet, when it comes to women entrepreneurs, the investment world consistently falls short, leaving untapped potential and unrealized returns on the table. Today, we're here to confront those missed opportunities and to champion the undeniable case for change. Despite increasing awareness around gender equity in venture capital, the numbers tell us we're far from where we need to be. Reports like the British Business Bank's UK VC and Female Founders and the Alison Rose Review of Female Entrepreneurship highlight the immense benefits of investing in women-led businesses. The UK Treasury's Invest in Women Code has over 200 signatories, but it's deeply concerning that more than half of British private equity and venture capital association members have yet to sign on. Many still overlook female founders despite the overwhelming evidence of their value. So let's look back to understand just how long this issue has persisted. In 2008, PitchBook began tracking venture capital funding by the gender of founders. That year, all female teams submitted around 2.7% of pitch decks to VC firms across the UK and Europe, receiving only 2.6% of total funding. Over a decade later, in 2024, female founders submitted more, 4.5% of total pitch decks, yet received just 1.8% of funding. Despite more women stepping up, the amount they received was shrinking. This isn't progress, it's regression. Across the Atlantic, the numbers aren't much better. In the US, from 2008 to 2024, all female-founded teams have never secured more than 3% of total venture funding. These figures represent not only a loss of opportunity for women, but a missed economic advantage for everyone. Studies consistently show that entrepreneurial teams with women founders outperform male-only teams by a considerable margin. For example, a study by Boston Consulting Group and Mass Challenge found that businesses with at least one female founder generated 2.5 times more revenue per dollar invested than those with only male founders. Imagine the impact if more of the investment world paid attention to these results. The Alison Rose Review estimated that if women started and scaled businesses at the same rate as men, we could add £250 billion to the UK economy. But this isn't just a UK issue either, it's global. The gender funding gap is consistent across the US, the UK, and Europe. So let's take this idea global. In 2023, the world's GDP was approximately $104 trillion. If women receive equitable funding, the boost to global GDP could reach as much as 10%, adding a potential $10.4 trillion to the global economy. That's enough to surpass the market cap of Apple and nearly double the value of all unicorns worldwide. Investing in women isn't just a matter of equity, it's an economic imperative. Yet the barriers remain, with three major drivers behind the funding gap: persistent gender bias, a male-dominated investment industry, and a tendency among women to make more conservative financial projections. Gender bias is well documented. Dr. Dana Carnes from the London Business School analysed pitch sessions and found that male entrepreneurs were frequently asked promotion questions, like how will you grow, while female founders were often asked prevention questions, like how will you safeguard what you have. This shift in questioning skews investor perceptions and reinforces caution towards female-led ventures, and both male and female investors share this bias, which tells us how deeply ingrained these issues are. The investment industry is also overwhelmingly male-dominated. In a study by Morningstar, researchers found that of nearly 1,500 open-ended investment funds in the UK, more were managed by men named David than by all women. My husband's also called David, so nothing against that. And he works in the financial sector. This lack of diversity limits the range of perspectives in investment decisions and restricts the potential for women-led ventures to flourish. Lastly, female founders often project more conservatively, valuing sustainable growth over rapid expansion. But in a venture capital world that rewards boldness, this can be a disadvantage. To bridge this gap, we need to encourage women to embrace confidence in their forecasts and educate investors to appreciate sustainable, thoughtful growth strategies as valuable. These challenges may be steep, but they are not insurmountable. We are seeing progress, especially with the rise in mixed-gender founding teams. From 2008 to 2024, mixed-gender teams in the UK and Europe saw their share of funding more than triple. However, it's crucial that we don't ask women to bring male co-founders just to access capital. Instead, we need an investment industry ready to recognize the strength and potential of all female teams. So, what's next for venture capitalists? On the whole, VC firms generate strong returns for their investors, but in only serving half of the potential founders, they're missing an enormous opportunity. It's time to consider an alternative investment ecosystem that places value on diversity, equity, and the unique strengths that women bring to the table. So as we gather here today, let's commit ourselves to real change. Let's challenge our own biases, champion women-led ventures, and push for investment practices that recognize the full value of female founders. Investing in women isn't just good business, it's transformative. Let's create and manifest the future we all believe impossible. Let's invest in ourselves, invest in each other, and invest in the future, starting right here today. And with that in mind, I'd like to invite our panelists to the stage as we kick off with our opening panel discussion talking about exactly this topic, the power of investing in women, leaders, innovators, and investors.
Good to see you. Well, thank you everyone for coming in today on January 20th, which is Martin Luther King Day. So thank you for making the trip out. This is great. Welcome to our panel for the power of investing in women, leaders, innovators, and investors. My name is Tamika Jackson, and I am with the Bullpen. I am Bullpen Relations Director. And many of you who are part of the Bullpen, our mantra is find someone to help and repeat. So this is right down our alley. I also have my own foundation called the Beautiful Way Foundation. And what we do is I have a mandate. My mandate is to increase the underrepresented and underserved clinical trial participants in the life sciences sector. So that is my mandate. But I'm here with these wonderful women to talk about the topic of investing in women. So ladies and gentlemen, I will ask you as I point to you, call your name, I would ask that you make sure that you tell us about yourself, who you are, how did you get here, and why are you here talking about today's topic? Why is it important to you? So, Sarah.
Sarah Creviston, great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be with this amazing group of, look how big this group is now, of our women. This is so encouraging.
Absolutely.
For the past 5 years, I've had the privilege of being able to help launch one of the first and the most successful to date gene therapies for SMA. And we're in over 45 countries, treating over 3,500 children now who have really a different life. And my responsibility was leading global patient advocacy, government affairs, and policy, working with governments primarily to find early screening and enacting that around the world. And why I'm here is I'm incredibly passionate about supporting and investing and leading women. And one of the questions you asked us is, what question do we have for the audience?
Yes.
And one of my questions is, all of us came here, and our hope for this panel is that you're encouraged and inside of encouraged is courage. So my question is, what will you take from this, or the connections that you're making, that you can take the next step, and your courage for your next step?
Thank you. Audrey?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Audrey Greenberg. I just started my 4th startup called AG Capital Advisors. My previous startups, 2 of the 4 achieved unicorn status. I'm really here today to continue my education, networking, and advancement of not just cell and gene therapy, but women in the industry. I'm a huge supporter of women, a fan of backing women, promoting women, and mentoring them, as well as being mentored. You can never stop learning. I got here today on a plane and was late, so I apologize for missing the first panel. But I'm here now, really pleased to be here, and excited to be partnering with all of you.
And hello, everyone. My name is Adriana Herrera, and I am the CEO for Pierre-Fabre Pharmaceuticals. I've built my career in the pharmaceutical industry, in big pharma, and then over the last 5 years, taking roles of increasing responsibility at smaller organizations. I joined Pierre-Fabre a year ago behind their mission to build a U.S. subsidiary. And over the past year, I've had the privilege of bringing on board 80 people and really establishing an organization, which has been a ton of fun. And I'm here today because if you had told me that I would one day be a CEO, I would have said that's really not what I'm interested in. If I can share any of my learnings with folks, I'm really happy and pleased to do that today.
Hi, my name is Lynn Fischer. I am the founder of Title 21 Health Solutions, a quality management and cell and gene therapy software platform. We transacted that, sold majority share to a private equity about 2.5 years ago. And last year at this event, I was talking about I want to see more women on the cap table. That was my dream and my wish. And so after going back to Arizona and really discerning about that, I was like, well, I need to do it myself if I want it done, right? Just like any woman's response. So started KMAK Capital, which KMAK Capital stands for Kent, Matthew, Allison, Crimley, our 3 children, because it's a single family office. And we are investing, typically late stage, in therapeutics, med device, technology, even some wine, because my previous background was in consumer packaged goods. I came from the wine industry, have a whole 25 years there. But really to improve the lives of others. And the question I have for you today is, what are you doing to change the world for women? And I know that's a lofty, big question, but I'm here today to show you it can be done. And Audrey, we missed you at the investors panel, but we appreciated your messaging through it all. If Audrey was there, 2 women that are on the investor panel now. So, we're in the room. I love to see this room expanding. Lee, thank you for being on the panel. And I know we have more men in the audience. So thank you, Becky, for having the vision to start this. And thank you to all who are on a daily basis doing things to support women.
Thank you.
So I'm Lee Buckler. I'm the DEI representative on the panel. First of all, super humbled to be with all of these accomplished people and women, and the least eligible to be here by accomplishments. And I guess I'm here, Tamika, because of course I have a strong, intelligent mother who taught me that it was about equality and it was about being respectful. I have a daughter who I hope grows up in a different world than we grew up in many respects. And she said to me something the other day, joking about life choices some of her friends were making, and she goes, "You can't be a neurosurgeon and do that." So that's the world I want her. I want her to dream big, and I want her to realize all of her dreams and her opportunities. And I had my first real job in biotech. I had a female boss, and who treated me very much like a equal, and I want to make sure that I give them back that same opportunity. And I also followed a very non-traditional pathway to where I came. And so I feel like even though I'm a white male and so privileged in so many ways, I was given a lot of breaks that I didn't deserve. And I feel like I need to do the same for anybody who's in a position where I can give them a chance.
Right.
And women certainly are included in that as wherever possible.
Thank you, Lee. Show of hands, how many men are out in the audience right now? Raise your hand. We salute you because we thank you for supporting us. Ladies, once men show up and they want to come to a women-focused topic, they're interested in getting involved and understanding our challenges. So we are going to do what we do best. We're going to talk. One of the things that is very important to me is this saying, just finish my sentences. I am woman, hear me.
Roar.
No, hear me purr. Okay? We don't have to roar, ladies. We're women. And we have our own way of communicating, our unique and distinctive way of communicating, and that is how I say purr. So just want to let you guys know, if you have LinkedIn, take a picture of us, put it on LinkedIn, tag Facilitate, and let them know that we're here having a great time and that they should be able to check out our next conference at Facilitate. So let's get started. Cross-disciplinary fluency and leadership growth. Building a broad range of expertise can be pivotal for advancing to leadership roles in cell and gene therapy and related industries. In your experience, Sarah, what are the most critical skills or attributes women need to develop to navigate and thrive in executive or decision-making roles? Have you ever invested in or hired someone whose profile didn't meet the traditional job description? And what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of things on the skill sets. One, what I've tried to do in my career is that cross-disciplinary fluency.
Yes.
That's currency going forward. Getting broad experience and getting deeper experience in areas, functional areas, parts of a business, in the finance or the science, that is going to give you that ability to sit at the table and contribute across those functions, right? And when you're just building a business, you may only have 1 or 2 or 3 positions. Hire the person who can do a few of those things, right? Because you're really going to get a lot out of that position with someone who can sit at the table and be strategic on a number of those areas. And absolutely, I have hired people that I always say, people have certain buckets. Some are full and some need to be filled up, and to evaluate which ones are worth filling up for people. And if you are energetic and want to learn and willing to go over into a different sector or a different part of the business or a different part of the science, then absolutely I would be supporting you in doing that. I've supported my science and my government affairs people to get their MBAs, sponsored them to go deeper into science in healthcare. So that's my recommendation. And my other thing about the skill set is definitely AI. I actually took, and Gloria is here from Mayo Clinic, we're actually taking a course through Harvard online, because I knew that I'm going to need to know how, I'm not going to set up those systems, but I'm going to need to know how to lead through getting some of those set up. So that's another one of my key recommendations.
Okay, anyone else wants to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, my background, I spent 20 years in finance and accounting, investment banking, and private equity before I got into biotech. And those skills served me very, very well in launching, scaling, and bootstrapping the organization, and ultimately the exit process that we went through. So, and I'm now offering those services to other companies, and I find that scientific founders often struggle when it comes with crafting a story and compelling pitch that resonates with the private equity and or venture capital audience. So having a strong financial background, understanding how to present and craft a commercial success story, as Irene mentioned this morning in the panel, like I can't remember what your exact quote was, but it was brilliant, about how commercial is oftentimes more important actually than science, or equally important. So I would just say having a cross-functional experience is important as you climb up the corporate ladder and continue to get exposed to, whether it's through Harvard and doing an AI program or actually getting experience in other departments is incredibly important.
Lynn, tell me about, have you ever invested or hired in someone whose profile didn't meet the traditional job description? What inspired your decision, and what lessons can we learn about recognizing unconventional talent?
I did it all the time, and it drove my partner nuts. I hired the person first. One of the number one questions I would ask them, what have your parents taught you in your lifetime that served you well in your life, in your career? And all of a sudden, they talk about resilience, they talk about curiosity, they talk about imagination. Oh, by the way, they talk about more resilience. They talk about failure and what they did with failure. They talked about perseverance. They talked about when they're discouraged and they're fearful, they take action and they do something about it. And it's actually a lot of those employees or people I've hired and believed in who were the best employees, and they didn't come from the sciences. They didn't have the engineering background. However, saying that, as much as you can learn, just because you don't have a degree in it, go learn about it. There's no reason why you can't learn more. Title 21, in the early years, we were so blessed to partner with people like Julie Alexson, who's in the room at W Firm, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and they taught us. And we were the technologists. So we were the tech bio, we were the enablers of it. And we learned, and we knew certain things that they didn't. So it was very symbiotic. But I also encourage, the book Range is a great book. I came from consumer packaged goods, so completely different. For the first 2 years of being in this industry, I didn't speak at all about what I did at M&M Mars, putting the M&Ms in the ice cream. I didn't talk at all, and here that was a little bit of cryopreservation. Little did I know there would be a leap in that. But as I got more comfortable, I realized that the skills were transferable. If there's one piece of advice I could give all of you is learn different functional areas, but most importantly, learn the skills of a general manager. I was very fortunate to be the general manager of a partnership between M&M Mars and Dreyer's and Edie's Ice Cream, and I was 50-50. So there was it was not 51%. So I had to learn to be very diplomatic, and M&M Mars and Dreyer's quality standards were very different. Their cultures were very different. So I had to be the glue in between and be an honest broker and serve the business and the company. And I encourage you all, if you do that and learn the business part or hire someone who's really, really good at business. I'm biased to investing in women businesses because those stats that Becky talked about, I'm not shocked at all. That's been my experience my entire career. If you want to get something done, what do they say? Give it to a woman. On that note.
I mean, we're done here. I mean, I think for me, it's always been about connection. So I love investing in people, right? Even if I'm not actually handing over dollars, I love investing in people and what I see as people's potential. And to me, there's a few critical things that just comes with who you are, regardless of how you're packaged or what you look like. And so number one is a hunger, right, to prove yourself, a hunger to learn, a hunger to execute, a hunger for success. That's critical. I think along with that, I'm looking for an unbounded curiosity. I want people who are just can never learn enough, right? They're curious people. And I think women are naturally, well, certainly they have the ability to listen better. I think that let's give that. And so I think that lends to an attitude of learning, right? That men could take a chapter from. And I think that, you know, that's certainly something I'm always looking for. And I think along with that, you know, I always, whenever I have an opportunity to invest in anyone, I try and guide them to thinking of themselves as in charge of their own career, right? I think too many of us, and I'll just say us, is we sit around waiting for someone to recognize our value.
Right.
And I don't say you've got to go out there and push it on people or be aggressive or always have something to prove, but it's your career. It's your path, it's your dream, it's your vision. You're responsible for it, and no one gets up in the morning thinking about your career. Pursue it like you mean it, right?
Wonderful. Adriana, right?
Yeah, I'll jump on that because I think I think that's where it really is about being intentional. I mean, so when you think about, I think such great advice across the board, right? And when you think about then like, okay, so what does that mean for me, right? How am I going to do that? What are the job changes, different roles that I could take on? Who are the people that you're interacting with where you can spend the time with them and really can get to understand, you know, how they think about things, right? Because some of it is, you know, what you can do yourself and some of it is what you learn from others. And then when you go to meetings, how do you sit in on a session that maybe you know nothing about? You know, we tend to go through our like area of expertise and say, okay, well, this is where I belong, right? This is kind of my world. But challenge yourself to then go to a meeting and go to a very different session where maybe you're just learning something new and you know, you're sitting at the table with someone who has a completely different career, a different role in an organization, and you're learning from them. And I think that's the way where you start to take those steps where you could say, okay, I own my career, and through curiosity and through, you know, building those relationships, I can start to kind of move in different directions.
Thank you. So I think the reason why this question came first is because as women, we're getting ready to go into the topic of investing in women-led ventures. But before we have someone invest in us, we need to invest in ourselves. And I believe that that topic is so important because we are nurturers by nature. And that means that we take care of everyone else. So the panel, women who have made it, women who are successful in their own right, and the man that helps us and sitting with us, we want to make sure that you understand that it is important to invest in learning something you may not be an expert at, but you need to be knowledgeable of. Because as you build your venture, then you're going to have to know a little bit of everything, and it's going to be to your benefit. So our next question is investing in women-led ventures. Women founders are often celebrated for being exceptionally prepared, yet may face challenges when demonstrating business acumen alongside technical expertise. What advice would you offer to women founders on balancing their technical strengths with the business acumen needed to attract investors? How many women here who are actually founders who are also scientists? Anyone? Okay, and you are raising right now. So this topic is for you. Let's start with you, Audrey. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty good example of that, actually. Yeah, I mean, look, you always hear, we all hear this all the time, hire to your weaknesses. If you haven't, I recommend it. Don't be the smartest person in the room. If you are, you're in the wrong room. And so I think, you know, you have to hire really smart people that complement you. And I think what's interesting about what Lee said about natural curiosity is just, I'm always asking the next 50 questions and trying to learn more. And so having that natural curiosity, I was lucky in that we started the Center for Breakthrough Medicines really and COVID struck the next day. And why that was good for me personally in many ways was I was able to attend every conference around the world in my pajamas from my office at home. And I learned so much just by sitting there and listening and asking questions and telling everyone I knew. But anyway, to answer your question, I think having the right people next to you, continuing to develop your own education, and not being afraid to show your weaknesses. You know, and I can sit across from any executive in biotech and help them in the ways that I feel my strengths. And I always have the person next to me that can go deep into how we're scaling up their triple transfection. But I'm not going to be the one that goes deep in that subject. However, I can tell them how they can manage their risks, how they can raise capital, how we can help them, why they can trust us, and have the right people sitting across from them to help win business. And now in my next chapter here, when I'm advising companies and private equity investors, it's very interesting how that cross-functional skill set comes to the table again. And so you're able to really leverage all the knowledge and background that you have, but continue to develop in areas where you have weaknesses, and always have that technical expert sitting to your right to help you when there's those topics.
Excellent. Adriana.
Yeah. I mean, so my entire career, I've been commercial, right? I've always sat on the commercial side of organizations, and as I work, and I've always worked really well with like the clinical development folks and now technical operations, but I do see this gap between, sometimes when you're so deep in what you know, it's really hard to come out of it and understand others' perspectives, right? And like, what are their objectives? You know, what's going on in the market, and how does this product or this technology fit in? So I think those conversations are really, really important, so that as you're trying to balance a very deep technical expertise with what others might be prioritizing, what do they think is important? How are they looking to, make money off of this or market it, right? And to me, that's like the bigger picture of where, one area fits in. And, So it's being able to understand that broader perspective, but also being able to communicate to it. Yeah. And that, I think, is also where others can help you kind of fine-tune kind of the narrative, the story around it. Are you at the right level? Does it make sense? I'm sure you guys have more experience with that than I do from a founder perspective, but I think it's really, really critical that others understand what it is that you're trying to get across.
Okay, Lee, and tagging on to that question, in your opinion, what differentiates women founders and their ventures, making them particularly investable? And how can investors better recognize and nurture these qualities?
I think Becky touched on it in the introduction. I mean, women are the real deal, right? They actually get it done, and the stats support it. They might be more risk averse, but they have a much better track record of being about execution and not hot air, right? I mean, men can get the money, but are they going to make it, right? So because there's a lot of hot air in the room, right? And so that's the bluster that men have, a lot of men. But I think the track record, and I hope that those who are investing in real returns will begin to see that. To me, when a woman speaks, she speaks with gravity, to make gross stereotypes, right? It's because she's thought through the way to execute, the way to operate, the risk mitigation, and not just sort of leveraging on hyperbole, right? Right. And I think that's the investable nature, to me, of women. And I think in terms of a word of advice, if I can slip one in. Absolutely. I think we've seen a generation of women who try to be men to do it, and I'd be all woman, right?
Yourself.
But the other one is call men on their bullshit.
Yes.
But call it early, and call it, right? I would say call it early, call it gently, call it, but don't wait until it's a big messy problem. Right. Because there are lots of men, Lord knows, I hear so many stories about lots of asshole men out there. But there's also a way, there's also lots of men who are trying to be intentional.
Right, and may not know.
And Lord knows I'd love to break rules. I'm not an angel. But I also have a lot of great women colleagues who call me on my shit when I offend them, when I say something wrong, when I do something wrong, who just say, you know what, that wasn't so cool, or that hurt, that offended me, or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I'm sorry, and we've moved on and have a great collaborative, productive relationship.
To build on what Lee says, that's so true. Call them on it, but surround yourself with people who will call you on it too.
Right.
It goes both ways. I fortunately had the role at Title 21 that I got to negotiate with all the big healthcare institutions, and typically in supply chain, they're men, and they're former military guys. And yeah, and I won't say what institution,
Love that.
but it's big, really big. And I walked away from a negotiation. I said, because if you treat me, the CEO, and you want our product, and this is how you negotiate with me, and you want to buy, how the heck are you going to treat our team?
Right.
Guess what? We did get that account, and boy, the behavior changed. So one of the things I would add to that is use the purr. I like the purr. My older brother would joke with me, the Helen Reddy, hear me roar and all that. And so I have funny memories of that. But don't raise your voice. Don't raise your voice. Trust me, it doesn't work.
Right.
They just think you're a maniac. Or you're, you know.
It's true. It's true.
They do. Trust me. Show them your actions, your behavior. That's all you have to do. They will listen faster and better. Because, you know, a coach once told me, she's a partner at Archimed, and she was coaching me on some things. She's like, Lynn, he had no idea what you just said to him.
Right.
It just went right over. And I'm like, yeah. But as soon as I started showing people what I thought and what I felt, all of a sudden they listened. And it becomes much more empowering. So use fewer words and more actions.
Absolutely. Love it.
Just to add on that, Lynn, because the investors invest in the team, and to make sure to be intentional about the culture that you're building. We can be really good at that. But it doesn't, you do have to be intentional about the kind and the type of culture that you want to build in your organization.
Yeah, and I just want to say, when we started CBM, it wasn't just about creating a diverse culture, and it was also about what we were doing for the city. We're blessed to be in Philadelphia, which is a majority city, and talk about job creation, diversity, and doing something that's not only good for cell and gene therapy, but sort of good for the patients. And by the way, when you're raising capital, or if you're an investor, you want a diverse team. They want a diverse portfolio, because there's this risk, basically a risk analysis that helps with offsetting risk in terms of diversity portfolio. They also want a diversity of founders. So it makes sense to not only invest in women, but in minorities. And I think it's better for your portfolio, it's better for society, it's ultimately better for the patients, which is why we're all here. And I have to say, coming off of a week at JP Morgan, it is so nice to be in this room right now.
Absolutely. Well, I want to make sure that if anyone in the audience has questions, the Facilitate team, just raise your hand and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. But I also had this question at another panel that I moderated about women being able to help men understand some of the issues that they're having. I always say, like Lynn said, don't raise your voice. That's not necessary, because your tone makes a difference when you speak in authority, right? And if you literally, my advice is, when you are having these conversations, these side conversations with men who may have offended you or who may have just been inappropriate in a meeting, the attitude, in my opinion, should be, bless your heart, you didn't understand, you didn't know, right? Bless your heart. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you understand what did not work for us, what did not work for me, and will not be tolerated. Okay, thank you. And that, to me, is what is important, is making sure your tone is right, but you come emotionless, and you come with the facts. And it may not register at first, but eventually, you will make a difference. So I totally agree with that point. Let's move on to, yes, we have a question here. Okay, I'm sorry, and a question there.
Well, not a question. I want to make a comment. It's amazing what you're talking about. Oh, my name is Lisette Caballero. And like you can tell by my accent and by Caballero, that means that I'm a Latin woman, and you know what comes with that. And I always call it my passion. I'm very passionate. And I don't yell, but I'm very passionate. So my voice sounds like it's
Very
yelling.
passionate, I get you.
And then, so if you have the same situation that I have, you have to be careful, because you know, all depends on cultures too. Who you talking to, the culture of the person. If it's somebody that speak very softly or from the, you know, southeast or whatever, you know, we have all over. You need to be careful on how you talk because your passion can come across as yelling at them. But you have given me so many great, you know, things to think about. Thank you so much.
Can I comment on passion? But don't deaden your passion too much, please.
That's what I've been told, but
Please
it's very
don't,
difficult.
because passion is the most credible way to get people to believe you. It was, we got lots of feedback at Title 21 and then at KMAK that it was our passion, our dedication to the patient and doing whatever the heck it meant to help that patient. And that passion is what is believable. That passion is what helped us transact with Archimed with no investment banker involved, no middleman involved, okay? No offense to investment bankers, but so careful, don't deaden your passion, let your passion come through at the appropriate times, but also be prepared to talk about the business and the exit and the ROI, not just the science, but the business as well.
Thank you.
And just real quick on that, I think underneath all of that is also authenticity, right?
Totally.
So 100% agree with the passion. As a Latina myself, I've got it, you know, harness it, right? But I think it also is about authenticity. So it sounds like your comment was also about using it appropriately at the right times, right? And I think that's important for all of us to self-regulate, but be who you are.
Right. And as a Black woman, I have the same passion that you're talking about. But I think, and it's a cultural issue, we are very expressive in how we, you know, hands and head and voice. But I also think it's about controlling your behavior, your emotions, as you convey your concerns. And I think that's where we have to figure out how to balance the two, because we always want to be effective in our communication. And if we're overly passionate because we're upset, then we may not be as effective as we choose to be. So just kind of keep that in mind. And facilitate team, I can't see the time up here, so please keep me.
Yeah, one more question. Yeah. Okay. So, and Becky, you actually talked about this a little bit in your introduction, but when we go back even into kindergarten students and we ask them to rate each other's IQ, boys will give another boy a higher IQ, a girl will give a boy a higher IQ, and she will often dock an IQ point from her sister, the other girl. So can we talk a little bit about navigating when women are actually not advocates for you in the same room that you're in, and if you guys have experienced that?
Oh my goodness, lady.
All the time.
Anyone?
To this day. To this day.
Yeah.
Don't focus on them.
Right.
And I got a fortune years ago in my career. You take great pride in doing things that others say you cannot. And that the people that don't believe in what I'm capable of are actually those who help fuel my desire. Right. But make sure you spend more time around people. Don't give them any time or attention. Not worth it. There are enough women out there who will do anything for you to see you win. Those are the secure women.
Those are the women. Before we take another question, we want to move on to a very important topic because we must discuss this. Navigating career growth amid family responsibilities, okay? How many women here have young children? Raise your hand if you have young children. This topic is for you. Family responsibilities and societal expectations can present unique challenges for women seeking upward mobility in their careers. What strategies or support systems have you seen work well to help women leaders maintain their career momentum while balancing their these responsibilities? Okay, who wants to go first?
Well, I think if you're owner of the company, right? If you're starting your own thing, you obviously can create boundaries around what you want in your life and stick to those boundaries with, you know, everything in moderation, even moderation. But I would say, like, I have a very supportive partner. I have other help with the kids. I have a 12-year-old, 14-year-old, 9-year-old, and a lot of help. Also, though, if you're not starting your own company, I would definitely say pick a company that is supportive of flexibility and some things that you need in your life, or have a job that reflects that. And if you work in HR or you're at a company that can effectuate change with regard to corporate policy, certainly put in place things that help to attract and retain female leaders and employees, which include flexible, benefits that can help pay for childcare, some other benefits that are particular to women, and having flexible work arrangements. We all saw that COVID in some ways benefited women in that regard. So that's just my general perspective on having a supportive and nurturing environment. And if you're not in one, leave and find one that is, because there's a lot of choices out there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a long journey, both as a parent and in your career, and just recognize that as long as you're kind of going in the right direction, right? Some years you might not make as much progress as you would want. So to me, it's just ebbed and flowed throughout my career. There's times when I focused a little bit more on the kids. I feel like balance is a constant, never ending. So, but just keep going, keep making the progress, right? Like, just keep knowing that at the end of the day, you're focused on your career and you want to continue to progress.
I would just add, my last team, most of my women on my team were the main breadwinner for their family, some by choice and some by circumstance. And this goes to, I was going to comment on your comment about who's supporting you, is to really build personal relationships.
Right.
I had to learn this. I showed up at work for a very long time, very corporate, and not willing to ask for help or let anybody know what was going on with me or what was happening in my family. And that is the most effective way as a leader that I can help you. If I know what's going on, what's stressing you, what is happening right now, then I can help build a plan. If I don't know, how can I help engage, right? And we can build the team and come up with different strategies and different ways to help you, because I want you to stay and I want you to be as productive and build your career as much as possible. So having the courage to really build some personal relationships, because that will take you over the long term. I still have conversations with people that I mentored very early in my career because I had a really personal relationship with them, and I'm there for the long term with them.
Lee, tell us what you think.
I think it's an external and internal thing, right? I think one of my first bosses, Alan Eves, was married to a woman who was a much better scientist, more famous scientist, much, and he, it was a beautiful relationship that modeled a lot of things, and he loved hiring young women who he knew were going to go off and have babies, and he's like, that's part of it. That's a big family, right? And so that was a great mentorship sort of environment that I grew up in the early days of my career. But I also know women feel this struggle a lot more than men. I'm the asshole guy who just leaves sick kids at home and says, well, I got to go to work, right? And I block it out, and women feel this much more painful, I think, than many men. And there's a certain biology to that. I don't want to walking on dangerous ground here, but that's my personal feeling, right? Is that that's much more of a struggle. And I think we just need to recognize that and make that part of the dialogue and part of the workplace, and recognize that it's just, why ignore it? Why pretend it doesn't exist? It's part of your journey. Let's embrace it. Let's figure out how to adapt to it.
We are out of time. This was such a great discussion. Had so many more thoughts in my mind about this topic, but I just want to encourage every woman who have the family piece in order. You have to build a unit, a support system, and some things may have to be delayed. So think about that. It is delayed, but not denied. And so you want to be able to know that it's okay sometimes, because you have the little kids, to not go to some of those conferences because you have the little kids. But it is only for a period of time in your life. I have all grown kids, and I'm living my best life right now, okay? And I'm still pretty young, so I will encourage you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Panel.